Let's bring in Dr. Stephen Farnsworth. He's professor of political science and international affairs at the University of Mary Washington in Fredericksburg. Thanks for joining us, Doctor. I'm guessing you did not win Powerball since you are here with us.
Yeah, if I won Powerball, I'd still show up for this.
Oh, we appreciate that, Doctor. It's easy for you to say now, isn't it?
So exactly.
You heard the setup. Are we really looking at legislators and senators and a governor who want to get something done for the people of Virginia, or is this really just a proxy war in what will be a fight for the votes for president?
The truth is a little of both. This is a very conflicted political culture in Virginia right now. The legislature has a strong Republican majority in the House and a Republican majority in the Senate. They can stop anything the governor wants. And the governor, a Democrat, does not have to, if he vetoes something, it'll be sustained by the Democrats in the legislature. So there's a lot of gridlock in Washington. There's a lot of gridlock in Richmond. And so the legislature is going to have a tough time, I think, avoiding the temptation to fight the 2016 election during the legislative session. You've got Democrats who want to make the Republicans look bad, Republicans who want to make the Democrats look bad. And so as Virginia is at the center of these electoral college calculations, I think you can expect a lot of fireworks in the legislature. Not a lot of progress, probably, but a lot of fireworks.
Well, let's take up just one specific issue, because it certainly seems like both sides of the political equation thinks that gun control or common sense gun safety laws, as the Democrats like to say, and protection of the Second Amendment right for the Republicans, that's going to be a legitimate campaign issue, and Virginia could very well be ground zero for that, given all the money that the Bloomberg campaign spent to get Terry McAuliffes elected. What will we see with regard to guns in Virginia?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that when you look at guns in Virginia, what you see is Democrats think that the gun issue helps them, and Republicans think that the gun issue helps them. And so I expect both sides will continue to fight this out. During the Senate elections last year in Virginia, we saw a huge amount of money coming in from pro-gun rights and pro-gun regulation voices in politics. My guess is it came out to be about a wash. What it does, though, is really, really get people agitated, and it'll be one of many issues. I think Medicaid expansion is another one. I think questions of the economic development issue may not be as partisan as some of the others. That may be one of the areas that's kind of a bright spot. But the most visible issues, I think, will be pretty contentious, and not a lot will get done.
Well, one of the things I notice is that given the fact you've talked about the gridlock, and you're right about that, there is a lot of gridlock right now in the Commonwealth of Virginia, given the way things are laid out politically. And it seems that when you have gridlock in Washington, well, the president sometimes decides he's going to do things through executive order, and we're seeing that in guns in Virginia. Are we going to see more of that kind of stuff in the days ahead, given the fact that neither side can probably gain advantage on the other? That is there going to be a temptation for the executive branch and the Attorney General to take further actions without legislative support?
That would be my expectation. This is not a new problem in Virginia. The days of Ken Cuccinelli as an Attorney General and Jim Gilmore and Bob McDonnell, there's a long history in Virginia politics of executives trying to legislate without getting the legislature involved in those areas where there can be some executive action. Attorney generals have been a key voice in this process, too. So this is not a new problem for Virginia. This is a challenge that comes, I think, naturally from gridlock. People get elected, they want to do things, and the reality is that divided government, that's what the voters elect in Washington, it's what they elect in Richmond. Divided government is not a vehicle these days for all that much effective compromise. So you end up with frustrated executives, be they attorney generals, be they governors, be they presidents, trying to figure out a way to do something. And the only way that they get stopped is if the legislature can put a stop to it, or if the courts say that's too far. But that's a slow, after-the-fact resolution.
But divided government is what the people have decided they want, right? So in a way, isn't what the people saying when they do that aren't what the people saying is let's have divided government, let's have a little gridlock because we don't really want a lot of legislative action, we don't really want a lot of government.
I certainly think that's part of the process. You see, when you look at these Democrats and Republicans both, you see they really fear the other side, and so they like the idea of of their people having some power, but they don't like the idea of a system where one party has all the power because sometimes they won't have any. But at the same time, I think when you look at things like the rise of Donald Trump, you see the frustration that big issues, that big challenges don't get dealt with effectively. And so I think the voters are of two minds here. I think they don't trust government very much, and that's one of the reasons why some Democrats get elected, some Republicans get elected to try to control each other. But there's also this huge level of frustration out there that government isn't fixing problems. And it's sort of hard, I think, to square that circle because voters want two different things, and those are not entirely compatible. They want government that can fix problems, but they also want not to give government too much power.
Well, and meanwhile, as you know, Terry McAuliffe fights his proxy war for Hillary Clinton, and the Republicans try to help whomever the Republican nominee might be for president, the people of Virginia would actually like the business of the Commonwealth to be done. And we see that the governor is proposing a $109 billion budget that includes a $1 billion increase in education spending. Has he figured out how he's going to pay for that, and what will the Republican response be?
Well, the good news for Virginia is that the economy of the state is in pretty good shape. The revenue from taxes it's increasing. All indications are that the state will continue to do better than the national average in terms of GDP growth, in terms of lower unemployment rates. Part of that has to do with the high level of federal spending in the Commonwealth. When you look at all the federal employees, the federal contractors, the military bases, the retirees, there are a lot of things that keeps the Virginia economy afloat that you just simply don't have in Ohio or Michigan or Pennsylvania. And that's the good news. The bad news, of course, is that the vision of government is sometimes much larger than those resources are, even in a state like Virginia, which is relatively healthy economically. And so there is going to be some money for some additional improvement. And that's one of the areas where maybe there won't be a lot of disagreement. Maybe the Democrats and the Republicans can work out a deal to provide a little more money for education, a little more money for transportation. These are needs that sometimes have more bipartisan support than some of the other issues that they talk about in Richmond.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Stephen Farnsworth, thank you so much for joining us. Greatly appreciated.